Hello, welcome to Beyond the Scenes. My name is Andrés Cuervo, and in today's episode, another interview with my friends who are in the film industry, creatives in general, and we talk about life. We talk about things beyond what we do. Here with me in the studio, Shema Kamau. How you doing, Shema?
Hi, good. Great.
Awesome. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
We worked together in a couple of projects, and it was very interesting how we met and how we kept our friendship and our relationship. And I think, there are a lot of things that we can talk about that not only I identify with your story and your journey, but I know that people in the audience will also identify. So thank you for coming and sharing your story here in the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it.
That's awesome.
It's been great getting to know you over the last couple of months, actually a year now, probably now a year. Learned a lot from you. Came in looking for a mentor and you taught me so much stuff. So I appreciate it.
Awesome, Shema. I would love to, talk about your family. My family is from Colombia, the first generation here in the States. I remember when I first came to the States, I didn't speak English at all or most. And now I'm doing a bilingual podcast. Can you imagine? I'm trying to get by. But, when I met you and you talk about your family background, I feel like, man, that's a point that I identify with your story and love to hear about that.
Yeah, so I am, and it's funny because on my Instagram and stuff, everyone asks me, "Where are you from? Where are you from?" They'll always see the bracelet and they'll be like, "Oh, okay, so you're from Kenya." But I'm half Kenyan and half Rwandan. My mom is from Rwanda and my dad is from Kenya. I'm first generation, so they came, and I'm just the first generation from them. And yeah, no, that's where they're from and everything. Yeah.
Now, I know that when people think about Latin America, they say, "Oh, Latinos," as if everything is the same over here. I'm pretty sure in Africa is the same, right? People talk about Africa and they generalize,
Yep.
but I'm pretty sure they're very distinct things about the culture. So, what is it about the Rwandan culture, the Kenyan culture that's very unique and different as far as you know?
Yeah, I think as far as I know, growing up, the biggest thing, it's probably very big in a lot of countries, but respect and honor is taken to a whole nother level when it comes to respecting your parents and honoring their wishes and stuff. I would say for me, growing up in a Rwandan and Kenyan household, my parents always prided me on obviously being respectful every single place I go. You know, teaching me and instilling a lot of those values, whether it be by parents' ways or just simply just talking to me. I think that in Rwanda, I learned so many different things. For example, when you greet someone with a handshake, I've done it with you a couple of times, or I'll reach out and I hold my hand like this, which is the proper way to do it. These are the little things that I was taught growing up. Respecting elders, people that are older than you, people that are in authority, whether they're older or younger than you. That's just a big thing. And I noticed here, especially when I go to friends' houses for sleepovers and I hear how they're talking to the parents, I'm like, oh, if I did that, it'd be that.
Yeah. Yeah. If it was like that in Colombia, my mom would bring what we call la chancla,
Oh,
and just swat with her.
I think that's where we relate. My mom would get the slipper, and then if anyone knows about the African slippers, they're rubber on the bottom, not even like a soft rubber,
Like hard,
hard rubber.
durable.
Yeah, very durable. They're meant to walk on concrete. Those things hurt.
When the slipper meets the chick.
Yeah, it was never fun. My mom was definitely and ask questions after type of mom. She's like, "Oh, they said you did this, then you did it," and then that's just kind of
Then find out.
yeah, and then find out after, and it's like, okay, I did do that, my bad. So yeah.
How about siblings in your family?
Yeah, I have a younger sister. She is now 18 years old. Just graduated high school. Yeah, growing up, we were always butting heads because we're 4 years apart, so we were always butting heads. But obviously as the time grew and we got into our teenage years, that's when we just became close. We're inseparable at this point. Where she is, I am, and stuff like that. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Growing up in the States, with parents from Africa, what were some of the special things, going through especially school, what were some of those things that you have to face?
Yeah, I had some funny moments, I'll say. Looking back on it, it's funny. When I was a kid, I was sad. But so going into kindergarten and stuff like that on picture days and stuff, we would have So my school had uniform, but on picture days we could wear whatever we wanted. And so going home to an African mother, I said, "Hey, mom, so today I can wear whatever I want because it's picture day. They're taking our pictures." And she said, "Oh, great." And so my mom picked out my outfit, and it was like a whole like African shirt, like African pants and shoes and everything, the whole everything. And I was like, "Mom, I don't want to wear that. Like, why would I go to like I don't want to wear that to school. Like they're gonna." And keep in mind, I'm like probably at this point like 7 or 8 years old, already like, no, like this isn't normal. I don't want to go to school wearing this and stuff like that. Like trying to hide away from like my roots and everything as a kid. Lo and behold, she made me go anyways. I go to school and then kids are like making fun. They're like, "What is that? Like, what is he wearing?" Like all that type of stuff. And I wish I was a little smarter when I was a little kid and just like put a shirt in my backpack or something. Just switch. I didn't do that. I wore it the whole entire day, feeling I guess like this like shame and stuff like that, of like what I was wearing. And then I guess like fast forward, which like that's like me growing up, I guess, and having those stories. But fast forward into like high school, like it became a trend to wear dashikis everywhere. And like I remember in 2017, like everyone was wearing dashikis, like it was all over Instagram. And I'm like, dude, you guys are literally making fun of me for this. And now you're coming to school wearing the thing that I was wearing, and now it's all of a sudden a trend. So like definitely at that time I had that feeling, but then as I got older, I definitely got a lot more pride about like where I'm from, and wanting to know more about where I'm from. So yeah.
And how about food?
Oh, food? Oh yeah, food is great.
Yeah.
Food is great. I would say like I'm married to a Brazilian, so like I thought food was gonna be very similar. I grew up around which is cool is like I grew up around a lot of Latin people. One of my best friends was from Colombia. Another one is from Brazil, and so like we were friends since we were like 6, 7 years old. So when I go to their house and I'd eat, I'd like, for example, whenever we had like a dish at my friend's house, he's Brazilian, it'd be rice, picanha, and some type of veggies. And then I remember he like his mom served me the rice, and I like look at the plate and I'm like, "Where's the sauce?"
Hmm.
Like, cause in Brazil they just make really good rice. They don't put any like sauce or anything. I'm used to, when you get rice, you get goat stew, chicken stew, beef stew that goes on top of. I never had rice just plain white. And so like I used to like growing up, that's kind of how it was. And I was just like very, very like keen to, trying other foods, but knowing like for me, if someone asked me what would I prefer, I would prefer, homegrown food like from Rwanda and Kenya 9 times out of 10. I am loving Brazilian food though, I'll say. But yeah, growing up eating African food has been like it was eating anything other than that was like a culture shock to me. So like I definitely grew up mainly eating that. My mom was always cooking every Sunday for the whole week ahead. Even just like regular dishes like spaghetti and stuff like that would have like its own like African twist to it and stuff with the spices and all that stuff. So it was really good growing up with that type of food.
Yeah, that's cool because I know these are some of the things of the culture that, remain in our minds and in our memories. The food and the music and the festivities and, the wardrobe and things like that. So that's pretty cool. Now, how do you see the influence of your roots coming into what you have, decided as your career in your art form? Do you see that they play somehow, or they're not necessarily a part of it?
I would say like for me, I don't think I think after I got into like the career that I'm in, then I started trying to implement the things that like I saw and stuff that I wanted to capture. I think more so the influence came from the stories that came from my country rather than like specific people telling me different things. Like as far as like when I was growing up, like the goal was be a doctor, a lawyer, all these different things. Like that was it. Like go to college 4 years, do that. Like even when I used to like draw and stuff like that, like my parents weren't like, "Oh my gosh, an artist, let's put you into art." No, let's put you into math
Okay.
and all these different things. Like I was my whole goal growing up was just being a scholar student and stuff like that. So it had nothing to ever do with anything in the art form. But one thing that like influenced me a lot, even though it wasn't African culture or anything that influenced what I'm doing, it was music videos. And when I was growing up, I loved music videos. Like I loved like watching like the regular music video and then the extended version. And a specific artist that I really like watched all their music videos was Michael Jackson. So like when I was I think he died in 2009, so I was like 7 years old around that time. So I just got into like kindergarten, first grade or whatever, and like I was just like in love with Michael Jackson. Like I was just like watching every music video, listening to all the songs. My mom actually had gotten us tickets to go to his like "This Is It" concert before he had passed away, unfortunately. And I remember after that, the first like real film documentary style that I ever watched was the "This Is It" documentary, where it was like the days like leading up to everything that happened. And I remember we went to the movie theater and I watched it, and I came out so inspired. I was like, I'm gonna continue watching all his stuff. I used to like dance Michael Jackson in front of the school at like the assembly,
The
all that
moonwalk.
stuff, doing all the moonwalks and everything. And like one of the music videos that really stuck out to me, and it was I like vividly remember my dad had gotten like the first iPhone that just came out. And I remember YouTube was like this little brown app that you'd click on. And
Yes,
so
that's
like
right.
I clicked on it, and like the first music video that was there was Bad by Michael Jackson. But it wasn't like the 3-minute version. It was like a 9-minute version where it was like a whole short film leading up to like him being in that parking garage and then the whole song happening. And I remember being so interested by that, that I just was like, I love just music videos and how these like things come along. And as I got older, music played a very big part in like my art form, I guess. Like in all videos I make, especially on social media, music is the first thing that like inspires me. And then now being older, kind of going back to what you're saying, like what you're asking is like now being older, like a lot of Rwandan culture, a lot of Kenyan culture inspires the things that I'm doing because I understand the story and the roots of my country. Like especially Rwanda being only 30 years old at this point. It's a very new country after everything that happened against the genocide against the Tutsi. Like seeing a lot of the creatives that are coming, that came as like their families came here in their first generation from refugees that are now making it in the creative space. I know some people that are shooting for the NBA that are from Rwanda, like up in the north, like shooting for the Boston Celtics and stuff like that. And just like seeing how the young creatives in Rwanda are like kind of, rising from the ashes of what happened, especially us all being the direct generation after, because the genocide against the Tutsi happened in 1994. I'm born in 2002, so I'm literally right after. So yeah, that's definitely influenced a lot of like my filmmaking, why I love documentary. And that's pretty much where all that stuff comes from.
That's great. Now, when you touch on the Rwandan genocide, and maybe some people in the audience don't know necessarily the details and what happened and how it impacted almost every single person
Yeah.
in Rwanda and beyond. Like it wasn't an isolated. It's like almost everybody in Rwanda had a family member, a friend, a neighbor that somehow was directly impacted by that. I don't know if you can give some context.
Yeah. One thing that I always tell people too is like, I remember I got this correction at one point. Someone came to me and was like, "Oh, what do you know about the Rwandan genocide?" And I learned that the verbiage in saying Rwandan genocide was wrong. It's not like Rwandan genocide. It's the genocide against the Tutsi, which was the tribe in which the genocide happened against. And like you said, like every single person that I know has been impacted in some way, whether it was a mother that, unfortunately got taken advantage of during the time, a father that got killed, a neighbor that got killed, someone that they know. And I think that for me, growing up here, I didn't feel the direct impacts of it until I got older and realized that anytime April comes around, I can see the sadness in my mom, and all my family members around. That's why I have like this tattoo, Kwibuka, which in Kinyarwanda means remember. And so every April, like that's like kind of like what looms over a lot of our heads. But the biggest thing that I learned from all of that and how the country has grown from it is forgiveness. Like Rwanda, like they have this program where they go and like families will go and forgive the person that actually, killed their family member during the genocide. And I think that like really impacted me in learning a lot more about forgiveness, learning a lot more about like, like you don't know who you're talking to, which is one thing. You never know what they went through. And I think just growing up with that taught me like to have a lot of empathy, put myself in other people's shoes and stuff. So I think like misconceptions that people have is, just most time it's just wrong verbiage and they just don't know, or they base things off of the Hotel Rwanda movie and that's all they oh, do you know about the genocide? Oh, you watch Hotel Rwanda? It's like that's not a true depiction of what truly transpired. And if you actually talk to genocide survivors, like you would see that it goes a lot deeper than a lot of what people say. We have an event every year in April called Kwibuka that we go to, and there's testimonies, and the testimonies that I've heard have just been, like they changed my life, especially growing up. Like I think the first Kwibuka I went to was Kwibuka 22 or 21, like right after 22 or 21, and I was like my 13, 14 years old. And I remember there's a testimony a lady gave about what happened to her during genocide. And like I'm looking at this lady and she looks radiant. She looks happy. But then when she tells her story, I was like, that's crazy that that can happen to you. And I can see the radiance of it after in your life right now. And then even hearing from like my mom, what she experienced, like my grandfather isn't here because of genocide. I never got to meet him, and stuff like that. So like even hearing the stories about him and all these different things, like, and how of a great man he was, and wishing I could have met him. I think that definitely does impact a lot of like my story and like what I've been doing.
I see a trend is that for some people, their heritage and their roots influence how they approach the visuals as filmmakers or creatives, designers, photographers, painters. They look back into the color palettes and the roots, but it seems like for you, it's more about looking at the inspiration for stories, the inspiration for, using these tools as a storytelling device rather than getting the inspiration for some visuals or
Yeah.
whatnot, and especially focusing on the power of forgiveness. Have you seen that some of your work kind of gravitates toward those things like forgiveness, reconciliation, and those things?
I think the biggest place where that's actually shined through in my work has been a lot of the work that I've done in churches. And just kind of, it was crazy. One of the biggest projects that I was able to do was actually with you, where we covered something in a prison. Like just seeing the forgiveness that was like extended just throughout that whole entire week long, and like even shifting my mind of like, I'm not looking at this person as someone that did wrongdoing. I'm looking at this person as a human being. I think that played big factors in, learning about forgiveness in my country. Like it wasn't, not that forgiveness is second nature, 'cause I don't feel like for a lot of people it is when stuff directly happens to you, but it allowed me to have like grace, and like working in churches, getting to work with like Passion City, my local church, and just kind of seeing like these like in real time stories of like redemption, whether it be big or small, it's definitely taught me a lot, especially just based off like heritage and all that stuff. My sister actually has like a nice tattoo. It's like a biblical tattoo where it says 70 times 7. And Jesus is talking about when someone, when you need to forgive someone, forgive them 70 times 7.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's 490 times. Like that's like that's a lot of forgiveness, and just seeing how that has impacted my life of, understanding at one point, like I was a sinner, but now I am saved through the blood and through Christ saving me and having grace over my life. I think that I feel like all these, I guess, themes have influenced like my projects and what I shoot and what I find most fulfillment in shooting. Like, yeah, I love filming a nice music video that looks good. I like filming, like a nice recap or a social media post and stuff like that. But when I truly get to dive deep into stories with other people, and even just see that hero's journey, through shooting documentaries, or even thinking about perspective documentaries that I do want to shoot myself, I just like always see the theme of forgiveness as being the thing that kind of fulfills me as I'm doing it.
Now, it's clearly that the church in general has, made a huge impact on you, but also as many other people started their music careers or their creative careers within the frame of the church, as church giving them the opportunity to participate, to volunteer. Was that like your genesis story for your filmmaking career? Or how do you enter into that?
So it was like a half and half, right? So when I first started, I think I was in junior year of high school, right before COVID. I was going to basketball games because I would like to say I was a pretty good basketball player. Just the coach didn't put me on the team, so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just film for the team anytime they have a home game. And I started just making edits like that just for fun. And over that summer, I had made like graphic design edits and stuff and started making like a little bit of money from it. I used to work at McDonald's. I'd walk there every single day to buy my first ever MacBook, and I got it, and I started doing the creative work there. That's like the foundation of where everything started. Then I moved to Arizona during COVID, and everyone was locked in, like locked in their room. So I was like, I'm gonna learn Premiere and After Effects and all that stuff and Photoshop and whatever it was. And I started growing with like the stuff that I was doing there. I went to a prep school. I finally made the basketball team. But then our season got shut down by COVID, so I started filming again. So that was like 2 back-to-back scenarios. But when I came back to Georgia, I had a friend of mine who had been in a car accident with another one of my friends who had passed away. And I remember having so many conversations with him and just being like, hey, bro, like, how are you so, like, you were in the car, like, how are you so jolly? Like, how are you so happy? And how do you have so much, like, faith and stuff like that? And he, like, as he kind of gave me his, like, testimony and stuff like that, like, they were leaving church on a Friday night and got T-boned on the side. And that's what ended up happening. And he said he has so much peace because he truly felt peace from the Lord that God was just calling his son back, because that night, my friend, he had given his life to Christ that night and died the same night. And like that kind of rocked my whole world. And just seeing my friend, James, just being so, faithful, so, jolly, so happy, just, so content with the Lord, I was like, where does that come from? And so he invited me to a small group, and I got to truly just see, what it is like to live life with Christ. We were part of this movement called Enjoy that's in Marietta, and it was like a Brazilian church. And I just got to kind of just see like the fruit there, and I was able to grow. And at the beginning of the year, when I finally moved back, they had given me an opportunity to use my camera there. And so I started taking pictures, filming videos, and I would say that played a big part of like my foundations for sure, because I was just getting reps in every Sunday, every Saturday, just getting a bunch of reps in, connecting with a bunch of people. And through that, I was making the connections, just growing. And then I got into a place of like leadership over the creative team that was there. And so I got to manage a team. And that taught me a lot of different skills of leadership and stuff like that. So I would say like the church definitely did play a big foundation, but it definitely did play a huge foundation in what came to be, I guess.
That's great to hear, because I know for a fact of many people that had the opportunity to, learn from within the context of the church to be, creatives, and then they took it into not just a volunteering opportunity, but into a full career.
Yeah.
You have taken it beyond just a career or a means to make money, also to develop a voice, to use that in a social media platform, and to create many other different opportunities that is not just, filming videos or doing things like that. When did you find that entrepreneurial, mindset and spirit that has driven you in the last few years?
Yeah, I would say like I kind of found it in COVID. During COVID, I was locked in my room, and like all I had was YouTube, and all I did was just kind of search up, how to build a business. I think I got the entrepreneurial spirit from my dad. My dad owned his own business, and I never saw him like work for anybody. So I was like, I want to do that. So I was 17 years old wanting to have that entrepreneur spirit. I remember one night during COVID, I was like, I'm going to make these t-shirts and I'm going to put them on my website, and I'm going to post that website on my story. And so I didn't think anything of it. I was grinding that whole night, 3 hours, made the design, put it on Photoshop, then put that on a website, a Shopify store, and then I posted the link on my story. I woke up the next morning to $900 of people buying stuff. And I was like, whoa, I just made $900 in my sleep. That's more than I worked 2.5 weeks at McDonald's to make that amount of money. Like I got to do something that's entrepreneurial. And so like I always had that driver, and that was like a spark early on, but I definitely did not have like a good mindset for it. Like I think like I just wasn't prepared to do what it took. And I think that from then till now, I think like the biggest thing that kind of just like that's where the origins were, right? And once I got back to Georgia and stuff, I went back to getting like a regular job, and I was like in school and stuff like that. But I knew that wasn't fulfilling me like in my passion. And so that's when I decided to just start making content. I started just filming my personal life, posting it on Instagram, getting made fun of for it a little bit.
Okay.
People like, oh, bro, what do you think? You're an influencer or something? Like you're a content creator or something? And just making fun of me for it. And I was like, I don't care. Like, I mean, I'm not harming anybody. I can just post and talk about my life. And then that leading into like one of my biggest opportunities, getting a retainer client for $5,000 a month for the next 2 years of my life, which allowed me to drop out of college, start a creative agency that we ended up starting. And yeah, the entrepreneurial sphere kind of came when I was 17, but then it fully grew and manifested around 19 years old. So yeah.
So we both have worked in a very traditional kind of, filmmaking setting, broadcasting settings, or doing commercials and things like that. So you've been exposed to that, but you also are coming from a generation that is looking at media and disseminating stories in a very different way, using social media and online platforms, not as an alternative, but almost like exclusively. And you've seen this shift within, from where you started to where you are now. And I'm curious to see, what do you think is right now the future of the industry from your perspective?
Yeah. I definitely think the future of the industry is in personal brand. I think a lot of the commercials that people are getting hired for are now getting hired to people that have personal brands. That if someone goes on their social media, it's not only that they're making the content or the commercial for the brand, but they have their own audience to follow and buy when they say buy, have an audience that will watch when they say watch. And I think it carries a lot of weight. I think that there's a guy on YouTube, his name is Danny Gewirtz. He did a full feature film narrative film, and it's on Prime, it's on all these different platforms, but it was solely carried by his personal brand audience. It was funded by them. It was, and for me, that like sparked something in me, and I was like, okay, like this is important. Like these brands are reaching out to you for you to do brand deals, but you can, from that brand deal, pitch a commercial with them, and then pitch from that commercial the BTS that you would shoot, that you'd post on YouTube for your audience, so that it then gives more exposure, more trust to the brand, and gives more trust to you. And so I think like the future of the industry is like DPs, cinematographers, gaffers. All these people are going to get hired because they have good personal brands, because they're top of mind. They're in everyone's face when it comes to social media. Like their face is the first thing that these people are going to think of. Obviously, you have the DPs and the cinematographers that are constantly hired by the same producers from, just that's kind of what I learned when I started working with you, is like a lot of getting hired is like you make the right connections with people, you have the right network, and they're just going to keep hiring because they know you and they like you. Now, this know, like, and trust that you had to work to build can now be built on a personal brand where people can feel like they already know you and they've already spent time with you on your socials to then hire you. So I definitely think like this is like the future of it. I do think these commercials and all these things and these shows and stuff are now going to live on socials. They're not going to be on the traditional television broadcast anymore. I think that people are going to now have their personal, like on their YouTube channels, it's no longer just vlogs, it's actual shows and series that are going to be coming from a lot of these creators. Like for me personally, we're about to move to Arizona, and I'm planning on filming, like think about it, I'm planning on filming a documentary of our 10-day road trip to post on YouTube. What can garner from that is brand deals reaching out. Oh, we need to send you more mics for all the people. Oh, we need to, and this is what truly happens. I can go and pitch these to brands, get paid for that, and then also create commercial content for them while I'm doing what I was going to do anyways. So I see that as the future for sure.
Now, for even people like me, coming from a more traditional background, we see this not as a threatened situation
Yeah.
or per se, but I remember at the beginning being very skeptical of like why everything's turning vertical, we don't see, humans don't see in vertical mode, they see horizontal mode. In movies and TV shows and everything is horizontal, but there's so much emphasis on vertical. And so it's not until I got hired to shoot national branding commercials and things like that on vertical mode. And with, professional cameras and not even your cell phone. And in some instances, what I thought it would be, your standard TV show was shot in two iPhones, one vertical and one horizontal, so that they could have the best of both worlds. So, I mean, started very skeptical, then started getting hired for it. I'm not really sure yet that everything is going to be solely living on socials or vertical, but I do see that the trend is not stopping, that it keeps going, and that people refusing and rejecting to be part of it probably will stay behind. We could have said the same thing about AI. Either you stay behind and critical with which there's valid points against it, or you also learn how to use it, learn how to work with it. Brings up a point. What do you think about AI?
Oh, yeah. So I was definitely on that train of being skeptical at first. Like, oh, it's not going to replace the creative. I still don't think it's going to replace the creative, but the creatives that know how to mesh it into their workflow are going to go so much further. One of the big things I think I was even telling you is like, education is like a big space. Info has been a big space, at least for me, growing like financially and stuff, because now I'm able to use AI to build out complete SOPs, KPIs, and systems for my business to run as I'm doing what I've already been doing. So now I'm using AI as just like a tool in my back pocket. Hey, give me this prompt. And obviously, I think I'm an intellectual guy. I can look at the prompt and be like, okay, I don't want to say that, but it saved me the time of ideation. Like, it saved me the time of having a blank sheet of paper and just bullet pointing and brainstorming list where it can do that for me. I can pick what's good out of it and script based off of there. So I think that people that know how to use AI are going to go very far. And then just also seeing stuff like Midjourney, the green screens are starting to get crazy. Like stuff is starting to look like very, very real. So I think that, AI is definitely going to be a tool to use. It's going to be very important. I don't think it's going to replace the creative. I think it's just going to enhance the creative. And I think overall, whether it's on vertical, horizontal, storytelling is going to shine throughout all of it. I've seen people that make stuff that look great and stuff. And even you told me this at one point, people can make beautiful things, but if there's no story behind it, no one's going to be behind it. Like, you still need the human connection to what you're saying and sharing. So yeah, AI is not going to replace the creative in that sense yet, but it's a really good tool.
Yeah, it's interesting because we talk about tools, we talk about technology, we talk about trends, we talk about having these formats, and many of us, especially when we're young, when we're starting young, that becomes our focus, and our focus is I want to excel, and sometimes as part of it we think that excelling means saying yes to everything that comes your way. Saying yes to any kind of technology, embracing any kind of trend, embracing any kind of client, because you just want to keep going. I find that sometimes by not having any boundaries in what you choose and what you don't, how you align with something or don't, you kind of compromise what your core values are. And so I'm curious to see, like, what have you learned in regards to excelling, becoming not only a filmmaker, but an entrepreneur, somebody that uses social media constantly, but not letting those things, not letting social media, not letting that thrive necessarily affect your core values?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, with like, especially with the core values that I have, I'm a believer. There's a lot of things that I'm like, oh, I won't probably do, but there's a lot of things I was too serious about. Like, there is like non-negotiables, black and white things that I was too serious about, that I realized like I didn't have to be that serious about it. I think that there were some shoots that, like, of course I'd get on set and be like, why am I here? Like, why did I say yes to this job? I'm not going to say yes to this job again. And obviously learning that from at least going out and seeing, I think the biggest thing for us, like, not to compromise on it, is like actually having discernment about like, okay, yeah, this is clearly just don't do that. And I think it's hard too. Like, I'll say it's definitely hard when, a client reaches out to you and is like, there's a big check for this. But you're like, it doesn't align. Now, I think what's helped me maintain my values actually is my personal brand. Because if I look at something and I'm like, if I do this, does this go against the personal brand that I've built? So it's like my values, but it's also the personal brand. Like, there's people watching what I'm doing. So it's like, does this go against this? If yes, don't do it. right? I got a brand deal the other day that came in my inbox for $5,000, but it was promoting crypto. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. That doesn't align with my values. That doesn't align with the things that I want to do or what I want to portray. I got another job where it was like, come shoot this music video. And then I looked at the, this is one thing I'll never do again. I briefly looked at the brief and I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be fun. And then I get there and then it wasn't fun. I was like, what am I shooting? Now I'm too late in the project where it's like, I have to be here and I have to shoot this. But like overall, I was like, learn from that situation. Yeah, I'm not saying yes to something like that, no matter how much the cost is. And so it's helped me to kind of just stay grounded to like what my values are, but also what was kind of cool on that shoot, even though I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go out and do something like that, I was actually able to like share the gospel with somebody on that specific shoot. I was actually able to just have cool conversations with people that I probably would never be in a room with ever again. But it kind of just reminds me of like when Jesus sat down with the tax collectors and the sinners. Not to say I'm Jesus, but to say to have that heart of like, you don't have to be this person that's like super stingy, like, oh, this is not a Christian thing, I'm not doing it. Because like you're kind of negating your mind to like the other people that are out there. And I think when I first started, especially on social media and my video business, I was like, yeah, if it's not exclusively Christian, I'm not doing it. And like that kind of hindered me because I also wasn't able to show the fruit in my life from what I was doing to people that may not have been like, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you say stuff like this? And I can just be like, yeah, it's Jesus in my life, you know? So it's like also, like I said, having the discernment, and then it's also the group of people that you're around too, because if the group of people you're around also aren't holding you accountable, like I have friends that like, I'll send a brief and he'll be like, bro, why did you go do that? Like, why did you go shoot that? And I was like, I needed some money. And then he was like, and it's just those different types of things where you have people around you to be like, hey, no, I don't think that's smart. I have a wife now that'll be like, Shema, I wouldn't go shoot that, you know? So I think that's how I kind of stay to my values and not compromise on them. But like I said, we're all human. Like sometimes you may look at a brief very short, or maybe you do look at the brief very thoroughly and get there and it's something completely different. What I'm going to do is not just get there and be like, I'm not doing it, because someone told me once, they were like, like what people are going to remember you for is the way you made them feel. And if I go there and like, I'm clearly upset about the shoot and I don't treat it like any other shoot that I would, with the perfect customer service and talking to people like they're human, then that's what they're going to remember of me. And I do not want that perception of me in the world. And that's kind of like what kind of keeps me grounded when it comes to those things.
Now you have experienced your journey from, being curious about the arts, starting even while working at McDonald's, experimenting with things, volunteering at the church, growing to a point where you can start your own business with all the challenges that it has, using social media, creating, education tools. But what's next? What's coming up with Shema and with all these new things that you're developing?
Well, first, I'm about to go to the desert.
Okay.
That is the biggest thing. Next week, we are moving to Arizona. I think what's really next for me is kind of having a locked away season, obviously still being a part of a community and all that stuff, but kind of going back to like that first love that I had when I first moved to Arizona and it was COVID and I was locked in and I had no distractions around me and just kind of going full-fledged into something. Right now I'm doing a lot of the educational stuff. I'm teaching people how to build their personal brand. I'm teaching people, how to command higher rates for the work that they're doing. Helping them shift their mindset from, I only can charge $200 for an 8-hour shoot to being like, no, you deserve to charge this and you're not wrong for that. So that's like the next step for me, is really just like investing in the people that I'm teaching right now. And also, just being able to build something sustainable. Because obviously, as we know, there's the ebbs and flows in the industry, where sometimes in the summer it's very good, and then we all know when November, December, and January hit, it just tanks down. So personal brand is definitely going to still be up there, because when there's not really that ebb and flow there, like December is actually really good for personal brand because it's Christmas, everyone wants to send you some stuff for brand deal, so it's always good. So like just trying to create a counterbalance where, if filmmaking is kind of drying right now, or yeah, if it's kind of drawing right now, I'm focusing in on a personal brand, and just knowing how to pivot at different times is actually something I learned from my first ever client. He taught me a lot of stuff in business. And he just told me, like, cause he does, real estate and like commercial businesses. So like entertainment concepts and stuff. So he was like, when entertainment concepts are good, I'm focused on entertainment concept. When real estate is good, I'm focused on real estate. Maybe I'm not focused on both at the same time. So it's kind of like where I'm at. It's like, if, personal brand is doing really, really good right now, I'm going to focus on personal brand. If filmmaking is picking up again, I'm going to focus on filmmaking. So I think for me, what's next is just kind of creating that balance, but also not burning myself out in the process.
Just like we started at the beginning where I was mentioning that we share things in common and identify with your journey. I'm pretty sure that a lot of other people do in the audience, especially not just because they're coming from a creative background or so, but they might be young, just like you are young. Like, I can't believe like you're already married and you still look like you're 17, but you're not. Anyways, but a lot of young people with, they see through social media that the world is just full of possibilities. Maybe people of faith, or maybe people that have an African background and say, hey man, that's awesome,
Yeah.
what would you tell our audience, when they identify with you? What would be kind of like your advice for people your age, or people that have your passions and your ambitions?
Yeah, I would say, for anybody that's like my age specifically, like, don't think that because you're young, you have a lot of time to, reach the goals that you want. Yes, a year, 2 years seems like a lot of time in the nearsightedness of stuff, but next thing you know, you'll be getting married, you'll be having a kid, and you can't take as many risks as you can right now. So like, what I would truly like suggest is take those risks as soon as you can, not later, because it's kind of only going to impact you at this moment if you're taking those risks. And then for anybody that's, of African heritage, tell your parents, if you do drop out of school, it's okay. Like, school is always there. And tell them, like, hey, if you are creative, hey man, the doctor route might not work for me. Your parents are still gonna love you. They're not gonna shun you because you don't want to be a doctor anymore. So that's kind of like what I would say to them specifically. But yeah, take those risks as early on as you can.
Mm-hmm. And did I hear, will you having a kid now?
Oh no,
Oh, okay.
no kid. I'm 22. We got like 7 more years.
No, just kidding. But it's great always to have these conversations with my friends, because I learn a lot from them, and I know that people will also want to connect, and
Yeah.
especially as you are having social media as a platform where not only you are using it to your advantage, but you're using it also to help people excel, to help people, do better, be better at the same time. How can people connect with you?
Yeah, they can connect with me on Instagram at shema.kamau, Shema.Kamau. That's literally my social media handle for everything. So
Okay.
that's where you can find me.
And I remember when we met, you were telling me about the meaning behind your name.
Yes.
What's the meaning behind Shema?
So the meaning behind Shema is pride. That's what it means in Kenyan-Rwanda. I think like one thing that's been a big shift for me is like, biblically, pride is looked at as a bad thing, or it's what made the devil fall and stuff. And at first I kind of got like a little secure about my name, like, dang, my name means pride and stuff. And like, the places in which I've seen pride in my life is like taking pride in, like, shifting it from a pride, like a self-ambition type of pride, to shifting it for a pride for other people, and being like, I have pride for my country, I have pride for my family, I have pride, for the things that I'm doing and the people that I want to help, not for my own gain, but for glory of God. So kind of been able to shift it. And then also I learned recently, biblically, Shema means to hear. In the Bible, in Deuteronomy, it talks about the Shema prayer is to hear. And so I think the biggest thing that I've been kind of shifting to as well is like just being able to hear more than just speak.
That's great. I always think that as storytellers, we're good at telling stories, but we're not always so good at listening.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the difference, to be able to recognize the story on
Yeah.
every people, being able to dig for the goal that sometimes is way deep and you don't see it at first, but as storytellers, we can bring out the best of people as well. So I'm very thankful for you coming here to the studio,
Thank you for having me.
participating. And I wish to have more of these conversations.
Yes.
And I hope that if you find value in these conversations, you tune to the next episode of Beyond the Scenes, and you can share with others so that at the same time others can get to know what's happening beyond the scenes. I'll see you in the next episode.